Welcome to another episode of Game Boy Roulette, where we take a look at randomly chosen games from the Game Boy library. Pinball Dreams. Mine usually involve being in an arcade in my underwear. We've talked about a variety of games on Game Boy Roulette, but it's time to discuss one of the most famous of them all, pinball. Pinball has been around for well over a century in different forms, from basic pachinko-style ball drops to more modern games with flippers that employ more skill than luck. In fact, flippers were introduced to pinball games a full 10 years before even the first video game was created. But it was in the 1970s that pinball really came into its own, with a combination of more electronic components and the wonderful world of licensing. And although the arcade boom of the 80s pushed pinball out of its golden age, it still stuck around, and pinball machines are now a staple of any arcade out there. Well, if you can find any arcades. Pinball Dreams is one of many attempts to recreate the world of pinball in video games, created by Digital Illusions and released and ported numerous times over the years, starting in 1992 with a release for the Amiga. But here's where I need to discuss something else. See, pinball games work as video games when you mesh the two genres. Look at Kirby's Pinball Land, or Pokemon Pinball, which both had their own special video game mechanics. There's just something about playing pinball in a video game that lacks the physical feedback and visceral satisfaction that pinball provides. And yes, I know that everyone remembers Space Cadet Pinball, but look deep in your heart and ask yourself, did you really like that game, or were you just bored during class? The cover thankfully does a good job representing the colorful and fun style of pinball machines. Just nothing but flippers and chaos everywhere. Oh, hey, Jack is apparently up there. I was looking for him. So, how does the Game Boy handle pinball? Let's go full tilt into Pinball Dreams. Ooh, from the ceiling. That's always a nice ident. Oh my gosh, that's the greatest ident screen I've ever seen. And that's some groovy music. Pinball Dreams. Ooh. That's a cool title screen. I'm liking this already. We have three choices. Ignition, Steel Wheel, Graveyard. We gotta start with Ignition, right? Because it's at the top. Let's do it. It's pinball. Oh, whoops. Patoo! Well, first thing I'm noticing is that it's playing quite smoothly. Which is the most critical thing for a pinball game. No. Yeah, I did something down there. It's kind of hard to read, because they're trying to recreate like an LED screen, but on a Game Boy screen, that makes it actually way more difficult to read. There, I hit that, and that. Oh, no. There, I tilted. Oh, lost in outer space, I think. That's what that said. So one thing is that it's very hard to tell what I'm doing. I mean, that's kind of a thing with pinball. You know, SB, JP, ball, HB. All these random numbers up here. I would also bet that the booklet that came with this game, oh, so close, would explain everything that's going on. No! Okay, I got some kind of bonus. From the looks of things, I have to figure out a way to spell the word ignition. And I'm wondering if that's what all this stuff is. That, like, I have to hit everything enough to force ignition. I mean, that's the thing. Pinball games all have goals. The one I played the most as a kid was Creature from the Black Lagoon. And the goal of it was to start the movie. Because it was like it was all about being in a drive-thru. Okay, I'm starting to get the hang of this. And again, it controls very well. I was very worried it was going to be extremely slow and awkward. But no, not at all. Okay, I'm not going to play too much on each board, but I just want to get a good sense of them. So, let's move on to the next one, shall we? Steel Wheel. Ooh. God, this is really good music. Okay, so this one is all cowboy themed. Again, though, and this is something I do need to point out, you are missing that physical feedback. I mean, obviously you're going to with a Game Boy. Or with any video game system, really. But, especially for pinball, you really want to have it. You really want to be able to feel, you know, the machine shake, feel the flippers in your hands, the gentle taste of one of the... Sorry, that got weird on me. I am going to do something. During the post-game recap at the end of the review, I'm gonna look up the booklet to this game and see if it explains how to win each game, because I'm guessing this one, you have to build your train. See, I really liked the pinball video games that had specific goals. I mentioned in the preview, I loved Pokemon Pinball because the goal was to catch and fill out your Pokédex. And I loved Kirby's Pinball Land because the goal there was defeat bosses. There was even a Game Boy Advance game, Mario's Pinball Land, that was bizarre, but I kinda liked it because, again, it had goals, you had to collect stars and eventually beat Bowser. But when it's just, okay, here's the board, figure it out, I don't get as into it. That said, that is absolutely a personal preference. Yeah, it's just a solid pinball game, I think. Mail wagon. Oh, we're slowly building the train. Got it. Unfortunately, the train will never be completed, because now we gotta move on to the last game. Graveyard. Oh, there's better be like Alien Crush and Devil Crush for TurboGrafx. Nope. My biggest takeaway from this game, I mean, it's good, it's really good, but the music is phenomenal. This is like Game Boy at its best when it comes to music. I know who they got for the composer for this game, but... Scared Stiff. They deserve a raise. Oh, God. No, wait, I don't think I want to fill out the die part. So again, while personally I prefer my pinball games to have a little more, I don't know, purpose, goal. Again, I prefer them when they're sort of mixed with video games. I'm still enjoying this a lot. Uh-oh. This game sucks. It's at this point I should probably point out I've never been good at pinball. I love watching, you know, the pinball experts who know exactly when and how hard to hit the ball, and who just, like, speed run pinball. It's amazing. Oh, now there's a thought. Can you take, like, a pinball expert and have them play a pinball video game, and how different is it? No. Did we get game over? We got game over. Yeah. 3 solid pinball tables in one delightful package. What more could you want? Well, I guess color, but come on, it's the Game Boy. They hadn't invented that yet. I can't really think of a positive pinball pun, so, multi-ball? As far as pinball games go, this one ended up exceeding expectations, especially since, as we've seen recently, the Game Boy wasn't exactly a powerhouse when it came to fast gameplay. But thankfully, Pinball Dreams kept it simple enough so that the gameplay was just the kind of quick pace you want. The controls were nice and reactive with no delay, which is pretty key for pinball games. The physics were quite good, and I definitely felt like when I hit the flipper had a direct effect on the angle the pinball went. That may seem obvious, but plenty of games like this have had limited range of movement when you hit the ball, taking away 90% of the control players have. So all in all, it played very well. And as I look over my list of issues with the game, I realize most of them are either nitpicks or personal issues, which reflects very well on the game. Again, I feel like the lack of physical feedback just makes pinball games not as entertaining in video game format without some kind of gimmick. The levels were varied, but also not super interesting, just playing like, well, basic pinball tables. And I really wish the game was on Game Boy Color, as the added color brings so much life to pinball. But again, those are all nitpicks. And speaking of presentation, the great sound design and especially the fantastic music really did do a lot to help the game out of feeling like just another pinball game. I mean, granted, it is just another pinball game, but it's a good one. So if you enjoy pure pinball experiences and want a nice, simple, retro one, Pinball Dreams for the Game Boy is a great way to go. Although I guess you could load up Space Cadet Pinball, that is if social studies class is starting to drag. And that's all for another episode of Game Boy Roulette. Make sure to like the video, comment, and subscribe to follow the series as we continue to dig through the Game Boy vault. I'm Brian J, and I'll see you next time.